Right? Oh, yeah. Get some tea. That sounds great. Wait, you know what? Where's the tea? This shell. And is it still? Thank you. Hello, everybody. Hello. Hi. Thanks for coming. Hello. Hello, YouTube family. We're just getting settled in here. Oh, Marla, good. You made it in with relative ease, I'm guessing. Can you hear me? I'm gonna just put this. Oh. Hi, Dina. No, I don't think he did. I mean, I think it's on. I think it's correct. Dina or Marla, let me know if I sound okay. I'm gonna lower the camera a little bit. Oh, good. You got in all right, and the sound is good. Okay. Oh, I lowered it so much you can see my dress. Because that's what's most important. Thank you.
I mean, I've tried to find nice dresses, and it's like, yeah, that's really a good one.
Well, I will share with the world. I got this at a consignment shop.
Oh, of course, yeah. So there's the one. None of us can have it.
Pretty much. Oh, thanks, Dina. She likes it too. All right, we'll get started in just a moment. There's one more person who is making her way in with some tea. So everyone get settled, and we'll start in just a few minutes. The best thing these days about wearing a dress is that it's on trend to wear sneakers with your dress. Right? Isn't that exciting news, if you didn't already know? Oh, good. You found it. Okay. So those of you in the room, make yourself comfortable and don't feel like you can't reassess your comfort level. At home too. Once you get started in a meditation, if the body is asking you to move or adjust, do it. You know, this is not formal practice. This is not any of that. This is just be as you are. That bell is making a very funny halo behind my head. I'm gonna fix that. But I like it, so just rearranging the furniture a little bit. Okay. Okay, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. Let's take 10 or so minutes here to settle into a centering meditative space. And just a couple of reminders. Number one, make your body comfortable. Support your hips, your spine, your knees, your ankles, your everything in any way that makes sense. But don't make it so comfortable that you go to sleep. Right? So we want to work to find that perfect blend of comfort and alertness. And the second thing to be always reminded of in any sort of meditation or mindfulness practice is that this is not about clearing your mind. There's no such thing. If our mind goes completely blank, then we're in trouble. That's a sign of a problem. That's not a sign of enlightenment. The idea is to be with in a calm and abiding manner all that comes up. So when thoughts arrive, you haven't failed. In fact, the moment you notice that a distraction has made itself known, then you have succeeded in present, in knowing the contents of your mind. That's what mindfulness is. So with that in mind, let's get quiet for a little bit of time. I'm going to make one more adjustment in the room. So take some breaths. And feel the safe, grounded position of your body. Whatever is supporting your seat, let that support rise up to meet the gravitational pull that roots you down. And in response to that gravitational pull that's rooting you down into the safe space underneath you, also rise back up. So this is that play between being comfortable and being alertly present, dropping down and rising up. And this is the pattern that the breath plays over and over and over. So we can sit in the center of that pattern, watching the breath rise and watching it fall. Arriving with inhale and departing with exhale. The parade of thoughts is bound to show up. And rather than marching along in that parade, be a bystander. Watch it go by. So often our response is to jump into the parade, to build a float, to fly our flags of stories that we tell over and over. We don't have to do that. We can stand on the corner and breathe. Feel our feet or seat on the ground, rise up with alert presence, and just keep breathing. Continue to stay with the rising and falling pattern of breath. And just another minute or so. And then gently return your awareness back to the immediate world around you. Once again, welcome. And for those of you here on YouTube, welcome. I'm Annie Moyer. This is Sun and Moon Yoga Studio, and this is Wednesday night meditation and Dharma talk. So I read an article recently, just this week, that the wildfires out west are in fact not happening more frequently than they ever did. It's the intensity that has changed. They showed a graph, right, for decades past, and it was relatively stable in terms of the number of fires. A wildfire burning itself out of old, dry brush, that's forest taking care of itself. That's like the natural cycle of life. It's the intensity that has gotten so incredibly, profoundly bad because of climate change. And it's the same thing with hurricanes. We don't have more than we ever did, but they're worse. I don't know about you. I grew up in the Mid-Atlantic, and so I grew up with the occasional hurricane, like maybe some of you also did around here. And I remember Hurricane Agnes. That was like my first big one. It was 72, maybe. Am I right? Yeah. Like I remember that. I was 6 years old. I don't remember another hurricane until I think there was one more somewhere in my teen years, but until I was an adult, and now I can name you. Oh, there was Isabel. We lost power for a week. there was Sandy. We all know how devastating Hurricane Sandy was. And even here it was scary. And a friend had a tree fall on her house, right? So like boom, 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 boom. It's not that hurricanes didn't happen all that whole time growing up, just, right? So the thing is, intensity is just relativity. It's just a measure of against something else. So it's like, well, there's this, and then there's that, and which is worse? And I think that we could get caught up in that like whole comparative exercise of hand wringing and saying, well, things are so much worse now. They're worse than they used to be. And in some ways they are, and we know all the reasons for that. But in other ways, how is that useful? Because we get deluded into thinking, oh, it's happening more. And what that does is that clouds our judgment and our ability to respond appropriately. So we can acknowledge, okay, things are bad right now. In this moment, this is the only moment I have to do something about anything. In order to address something, we have to be present in the moment to know what's even possible. And so it's that awareness of the presence, of the momentary reality, that is the springboard for skillful action. The Latin that originates our word for intensity is tendere, and it means to stretch out. It means high strung or tight. It's also related to the Spanish verb tensar, to hold. Like if something is high strung or stretched out, it has to be held tightly on both ends. And that suggests a negative tendency. That's a connotation of well, you know, oh my gosh, this person is so high strung, they don't know how to relax, right? But what if we flipped this idea of stretching, of high strung or stretched out, and suggested that what it means in terms of intensity as we know it is to stretch out a moment. And if we stretch out a moment, if we take a magnifying glass to what's happening right now and zoom way in, then we get better information because we're not clouded by, oh God, this just keeps happening so much more than it used to. But so instead, we're like, oh, okay, it's happening now and it's bad right now. And I'm here for it. I'm here in all the ways that I have to be. I don't have a choice. And I'm here in all the ways that where I can find some agency, some power to respond. And so it's like this intensity of mind and of heart can be applied then to our capacity for presence. If our capacity for presence is heightened and expanded, then our capacity for response is too. There's a poem by Mary Oliver in which she says, "The imagination is better than a sharp instrument." So the sharp instrument measures constantly. Is this good or bad? Do I like this or do I not like this? Does this make me more worthy or less worthy? Does that make that thing have more value or less value? But imagination sees what is and then creates opportunities. In this same poem, she says our only real job is to pay attention. So how do we apply that in moments of intensity? Because those are the moments when we tend to go dark. And I'll say more about that in a little bit. But first, I want to invite you to we'll do another short practice where we're just going to stretch out these moments. Just stretch out our awareness of what's real and true right now. So take in this present moment. So for me, what I'm taking in is I have some lovely people in the room with me. I'm aware that there's some people watching online, and I'm also aware that there will be people watching later who aren't here live. So this is like, recorded for posterity, which is intimidating and sometimes terrifying. Because what if I say something wrong? Oh, so I've got lights on me, which is not always that comfortable. All those things. I'm aware. I know what I'm going to go home and make for dinner because I didn't eat before. So take in your reality right now. Enough about me. Take in your reality. And then stretch it out to just right now. Maybe there's something waiting for you to do at home. Maybe there's some discomfort about what happened earlier today. But that's not right now. What is right now? So stretch out. And then notice what sensations are real and true for you in this definable right now. Is there some joint in your body that's saying, what about me? Me. Is there some, catch to the breath? Is there some very real concern for someone or some circumstance? Even though that thing or that person isn't right and likely maybe not right in front of you, but the concern is real and true right now. Stretch out what's real and true right now. What's real and true right now includes your own immediate existence and survival concerns. Everything about your body and your livelihood, your ability to have shelter and food and connection with others, that's all real and true. Stretch out what you know about that. And make room for the breath to infuse that reality. And then expand your awareness or your consideration to those closest to you. Family, friends, pets. And let them into this stretched out reality in a welcoming and compassionate way. And then consider your community, your neighbors, the people who you see on the street, and maybe you don't even know their names, but you know their presence, your mail carrier, your barista, whoever it is. Let them into this expanded moment of presence. And expanding a little further, taking into consideration your community at large, your city, your town, your state, the country. And that might get a little hairy in there. And if it feels like that's too big, too much, too intense, too stretched out, come back in. If it doesn't feel like too much, it might at some point bring information about our own capacity for response, for action, for understanding, for curiosity. And then perhaps we consider the entire planet, and if nothing else, send an affirmation of hope or of the potential for healing of our scorched earth. And the moment it feels too big, come back in to take in just the reality of your immediate existence. Take another few breaths. Return awareness to your simple, supported seat or ground if you're lying down, whatever it is. Returning to the physical reality of your body in this place and time as we understand it. And bring your awareness back into your surroundings. So a little bit about memory of intense moments. They say that the more emotionally charged an event is, the more likely we are to remember everything about it. Where were you on 9/11? That whole conversation. What I've learned recently is there have been studies done that have documented and proven the fact that we, in fact, are unreliable narrators of our own memories. And that and the reason is because something that is highly emotionally charged is often something that requires us to layer in support. And so often our memories add in pieces that might feel comforting or that might make a better story for ourselves, if not for everybody else, that we were okay and will be okay in that moment. So here's an example of from my life where I learned that I had embellished the story. And I don't know why I did it, but I know that I did it. And it was when the space shuttle exploded. So it was January of 1987. And there I was in my Russian literature class at Syracuse University. And the professor came in and told us what happened. And so recently, like a couple of years ago, one of my closest friends from college, Jordan, and I were talking about that class. Because he always used to joke that he never read Anna Karenina, that he just, like, I gave him verbal cliff notes, so he never had to fully read it. And that I was the only reason he passed the class. So anyway, Jordan and I were talking about our Russian lit class, and he made the same Anna Karenina joke. And then I said, well, and that was, remember the day when the space shuttle exploded? And she came and told us, he's like, I wasn't there. I said, what do you mean you weren't there? We were in that class together. Of course you were there. He said, no, because I was in New Orleans covering the Super Bowl for the Daily Orange. And that's where I was when the space shuttle exploded. And of course, it was the end of January 1987. It was the Super Bowl. Jordan was a reporter for the school newspaper, and he was the sports editor. So he was not there. But in my memory, somehow I needed my friend. And this blew my mind. I mean, really, like it just changed my whole, like I questioned everything about my memory, and because I always have prided myself in having a really good memory. Like I remember, outfits and things. Back to my dress. I guess this is my thing. But so it was shocking to me, and I realized, yeah, this is what we do. We layer in support when it wasn't there. Now, in cases of where the intensity of the experience is as a result of trauma, of a violent act that we either were the victim of or that we observed firsthand. Often, in that case, the response to the intensity is to dissociate, right? Just to leave our bodies and disconnect from the surroundings, to avoid all of those very difficult feelings of shame and anxiety and fear. We lose touch with the immediate. So the intensity, instead of stretching out and lengthening our experience of emotion and presence, it stretches out the distance between us and what's happening. But the intensity of the moment is still there. It still keeps its hold on us. That stretch lays itself down in the body in other ways. And we know this. It just goes into a deeper unmet or unseen space, right? And so in traumatic healing work, we're learning to make space for the intensity of what happened as a past truth that has the capacity and the very real opportunity to coexist with a present truth of safety and of healing and of support in the moment. The healing comes with the expansion of the moment, a new sort of intensity that makes room for the memory to recognize it as over, and then to recognize all of the rest of what's possible in that moment. That is a simple breath, that is an outstretched hand, the support of loved ones, or an inner strength. There's a quote by Khalil Gibran, and he wrote, "Substantial things deaden a man without suffering. Love awakens him with enlivening pains." Substantial things deaden a man without suffering. So it's like we have to learn how to suffer well if we can learn how to heal well. We have to find a way to make room for all of that. Love is also defined often as a feeling of intensity, and especially romantic love and the love of a child or a pet. All of those things can be intense. One of my teachers defines love as unhurried attention. And I love that so much, because what else feels like you're seen and held and heard in the world than somebody's attention given to you fully, without a phone or a TV or a meal or anything else, but just full presence. And this is time stretched out. This is the expansion, the intensity of a moment where nothing else at that time is held except for the presence of the person that is beloved, or the being, because I intensely love my dog, so I do not leave out the animals. And so with that love, we can come back to full presence. And we can't have full, intense love without putting ourselves at the risk of full, intense grief at the inevitability of loss. And the magnitude of our grief at the loss of a loved one is only measured by the magnitude of our love that we had for them. So back to Khalil Gibran's quote, love awakens us with enlivening pain. So we'll do another little sort of mind experiment that we can turn into, that we can leverage as a mindfulness practice. And that is to bring to mind somebody for whom you have great love and affection. And this can be somebody still walking the earth, or it can be somebody who is existing in the heart mind in the mystical realm only. Make lots of room for them. And watch your breath as you conjure their presence. Draw out the inhale. So an inhale that's long doesn't have to be deep. In fact, we know that sometimes deep breaths can be a trigger for an anxious moment. So it's a long breath that matters. It can be long and shallow. You're still breathing. It's functional and nourishing. Just simply stretch it out. And hold their presence as you correspondingly exhale. And other thoughts will appear. There's room for them too. Other people will appear. Make it a party. There's room. Perhaps the love that you have for them can be expressed by an intensity that does stretch out, and it makes itself comfortable in all the spaces of your mind, your heart, and your breath. And any conflicted feelings or unresolved conflict or petty annoyance, it's all there too. But if we can stretch out the time and space of presence, there's room for all of it. So we are tending with unhurried attention. And at a certain point that feels reasonable, feel free to let all of the imagery fall away and then just simply be with the breath. Simply space for you in the immediate. And we'll sit in that quiet contemplation of each moment as it arises for about 5 more minutes. Feeling welcome at any time to shift position, to help the body find its balance, a state that has equal amounts alert awareness and easy comfort. As nagging questions or difficult memories or future related concerns make their way in, name them, greet them, show them the way out with your next exhale, and return to this moment, this breath. If the body starts to resist, find the ground again, reassert your seat or your presence. Rise back up through the spine, however you're positioned. And begin again with simple inhale and corresponding exhale. Just a couple more minutes. And then gently bring your awareness back into your immediate surroundings and feel your body and maybe wriggle it around a little bit and stretch out. Shift position if you haven't done so. And I will say thank you to those of you online. May all beings be safe and free from pain and suffering. And may all beings be at peace. Thanks for joining.